Council, Thursday, February 28th, 2019. Could we call to order?
Councilmember Clark?
Present.
Dearness?
Present.
Johnson?
Here.
Wait. Here. Mayor Toussaint?
Here. Karen, would you like to lead us in the pledge? All right, so with that, we'll move on to the regular agenda. Lisa, can we get a title readout?
Item 1, City Council appointments to the Planning Commission and Board of Architecture Review. That the City Council nominate and ratify individual council member appointments to the Planning Commission, hear presentations from applicants interested in serving on the Board of Architecture Review, engage in a ranking process to narrow down the applicant pool of potential BAR members in an effort to select the most qualified candidates, and ratify the top 5 candidates to the Board of Architecture Review.
All right, so with that, is there any questions of the staff report? Okay, with that, we'll move on to public comment. I have one speaker slip from Brian Cheney. All right. Would anyone else like to speak? With that, we'll move on to the regular agenda item. Take this back for discussion act. I believe we're going to have a 3-minute interview or time slots, right, for the PC applicants?
Actually, as written, Mr. Mayor, we don't have that down, but that is your prerogative to request 3-minute interviews with the planning committee applicants at this point. My recommendation would be for staff to give the staff report, and then after the staff report, entertain any questions, and then if you'd like, one of the items that I'm asking for is to either approve the recommendation of the process or modify it. That would be the appropriate time to make the modification.
Okay, perfect. So with that, we'll move on to the staff report.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Members of the City Council, as the City Clerk indicated, this item is to appoint individuals to the Planning Commission and the Board of Architecture Review. Back in December, the City Council gave authority for staff to advertise for vacancies on both committees. Back in February, the decision was made to reopen the application process until this last Tuesday at 1 o'clock to receive applications. In addition, it was requested that the applicants fill out a letter of intent. The letter of intent was to include why they would like to be on council's appointments, also what makes them uniquely qualified for the position, and then also what is their vision for the city of Solvang. As far as the Planning Commission applicants are concerned, we received 12 applicants. Those applications are in your agenda packet. In the spirit of full transparency and disclosure, we also put those packets on the website for the public to review. Of the 12 applicants, we received letters of intent from all except for 2. According to the Solvang Municipal Code, it states that each city council member shall appoint 1 planning commissioner, subject to the ratification of the city council. In the event that a council member's appointment shall not be ratified, the council member may appoint another qualified person, subject again to the ratification of the entire city council. In the event that no such appointment is ratified, or a council member declines to make an appointment will be made by the majority of the city council, so we would have 5 members on the planning commission. Each appointment this evening is being recommended to be done by motion and a vote of the city council. That is for the planning commissioners. As far as the Board of Architecture Review, we have 10 applications for the Board of Architecture Review. All but 3 submitted letters of intent as requested in the application process. The Board of Architecture Review is a little bit different from a appointment process than the Planning Commission. Again, our recommendation would be to appoint the planning commissioners on a motion and then a vote with the Board of Architectural Review, because there could be multiple desired appointments. Staff is recommending a ranked voting process similar to what you used for the vacancy on the City Council a couple weeks ago. The applicants would be called in alphabetical order. They've been asked to give a 3-minute presentation. Council can ask any clarification questions at that time. And then at the conclusion of the presentation, that each City Council member would be given a ballot. We would ask that you rank your top 5 applicants for the Board of Architectural Review. Each applicant will receive a weighted vote as far as the top 5. Your ballots will then be turned into the city clerk. She will then read those ballots to myself, and I will put it on the spreadsheet on the overhead for the viewing public. The recommendation would be the top 5 highest scores will then be appointed to the Board of Architectural Review. In the unlikely event that there is a tie, where you don't have a total of 5, then staff's recommendation would be similar to what the Planning Commission appointment process would be. You would fill the remaining vacancies by way of a motion and a vote. That concludes my report, Mr. Mayor. Available to answer any questions of yourself or council.
Does anyone have any questions of staff?
Did you want to discuss the interview process or the
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah,
Okay.
I would like to open it up for the PC applicants to be able to make 3-minute presentations.
okay.
Do you want to require it, or you just want if they want to, basically?
I mean, we can't really require it, but if they would like to, then yeah.
I would suggest that you gain a consensus of your colleagues on the dais,
Okay.
and that way all of them would be given a fair opportunity to make a presentation. I asked the city clerk, out of abundance of caution, to call or contact all of them to see if they would be notified ahead of time that they may be required to make a presentation. And my understanding is we were able to contact all except for possibly one. Okay, and that was?
I was not able to reach Robert Ayers.
Okay.
All right. So with that, do I have the nods for moving forward with 3-minute sessions for the PC applicants?
Yes.
I don't see a problem with it. Yeah.
Okay. So I guess with that, we'll start going down the applicant list, right?
Yes, sir.
First one we have here would be Robert Ayers. Ayers? Not present. The next one would be David Brents.
Excuse me, Mr. Mayor, are you asking him to come up and speak now?
Yeah.
We have an application on our desk with respect to Scott Gold. Do you want to address this now, or do you want to wait?
Oh, so yeah, so your appropriate time would have been to address it then if you're trying to bring someone into the application process. Well, I guess just do it now.
And I would like to do it now. I'd like to recommend that we go ahead and accept the application from Scott Gold. I think he brings a lot to the table, and if it's not a problem with other council members, I think we've got plenty of time to hear him as well.
I'm okay with that.
We have 3 nods?
Yeah, 4, it's fine.
4?
Yes.
Yes? 5 nods? Okay.
Thank you.
For PC or BAR?
Oh, yeah.
PC. No, BAR, excuse me. Excuse me.
He's saying both. So, oh,
Bar.
BAR. Sorry.
Okay. So for the BAR,
Right,
we'll
thank you.
insert him in. All right. So David Brents.
Thank you, Mayor and Council, for giving me an opportunity to speak to you all this evening. Just by way of background, I thought I'd share with you my background. I've been a Solvang resident for 17 years. I'm married. I have 3 daughters. We've raised our family here in Solvang. Education, I have an undergraduate degree at UT Arlington. In accounting, I have a master's degree in finance from Denver University. I have professionally been a CPA for about 35 years. My focus in my career has been on hospitality. So throughout my career, I've been focused in the hospitality businesses. I was the chief operating officer for Shumash Casino for 8 years. I built the new casino and opened it 2004 and had operated that. And then post Shumash, I actually went and operated a larger casino down in the desert called Morongo for 4 years. Currently, I manage an experiential resort in Maui and real estate portfolio for a family wealth office out of Denver. And my wife and I own and operate a restaurant in Solvang. Specifically, in my experience in Solvang, as part of my responsibilities with the Shumash, we bought, renovated, operated Hotel Cork and Route 246. My wife and I opened a wine bar called Valley Vino on Mission Street and operated it for a couple of years. That morphed into a restaurant. We actually operate a restaurant there today. We employ 40 people in Solvang. We know firsthand the challenges of operating a small family business in Solvang. And I was on the opening team with Lansby, with helping with their finances when they opened and built the Lansby. So I have some specific, unique experiences with respect to Solvang and business in Solvang. When it comes to vision for Solvang, I think that my focus really would be a business-friendly environment for capital investment. People that come to town want to invest in the community, really find it to be a very difficult process. And it's a very expensive process because the time between idea and revenue can actually go astray and really be expensive. I like to preserve the unique character of our community. We love living in a small town. We feel it is a source of pride. We travel quite a bit, and every time we come back, we feel like we live in the right place. We want our children to be able to live in a thriving community here in the future. And I think my focus really with hospitality is on the guest experience and working to improve the guest experience when they come to Solvang so that we can really shine and reflect on what we are as a world-class tourist location.
Thank you, David.
Punchline, I believe my education experience will contribute to the success of the Planning Commission.
Thank you.
Thank you.
See, the next step we have is Ryan Cuff.
I wrote something down. Not super good talking off the cuff, but so I planned. Good evening. All right, yeah, exactly. My name is Ryan Cuff. I'm honored to have the opportunity to be considered for serving on the Planning Commission for the City of Solvang. I bought my first home in Solvang in 2010, and I've enjoyed the many opportunities Solvang and the San Ynez Valley have to offer for me and my family. I'm a hands-on general contractor and electrician with over 15 years renovating and developing multiple properties. My trade experience also extends to work done in other communities in Santa Barbara County and in Northern California. My part-time job is as First Sergeant of the 346 Quartermaster Company, 21 years with the U.S. Army. During my years living and working in Solvang, I've had the opportunity to make the acquaintance of many fine people involved in residential and commercial projects. I've heard their issues and praise pertaining to the planning and building process, and of course have been directly involved myself. My vision for the City of Solvang is one of balanced growth, encouraging new development the community wants or needs, while ensuring our infrastructure can properly support it. Improve traffic flow, mitigating congestion in any way possible, and make sure pedestrians are safe while enjoying our city. Develop a more streamlined and structured planning process for the benefit of the city staff, the budget, and members of the community. I would be honored to be in the position to offer my input on any issue the city council or staff comes across. The variety of work I've done and experience within and outside Solvang, I feel would be a great benefit to the commission. Thank you for your consideration.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Gay and Fonte.
Good evening, Mayor, City Council members. I'm Gay Infanti, and I'm applying for reappointment to the Planning Commission. I believe I'm well qualified for the job, having served in this capacity for 4 years, during which time I've been fully prepared for every meeting, listened carefully to applicants, staff, and public comment, and attempted to reach decisions that would be acceptable to all parties while ensuring that all approved projects meet Solvang's general plan and ordinances and are the best they can be for the city, its residents and businesses, and visitors. I'm supported in this belief by the numerous expressions of appreciation and thanks I've received from council members, city manager, city staff, and residents for my thorough and thoughtful approach to decisions with regard to proposed projects, updates to city ordinances, and revisions to our general plan. In addition, I have significant relevant professional experience. I'm a graduate of UCLA and of the UCLA Anderson School of Business Executive Program. I have expertise in finance and accounting, business planning, capital budgeting, contracting, cost estimating and pricing, project management, process development and improvement, and training gained through the following work experience. 15 years with Logicon Incorporated as controller and later vice president and CFO for a $350 million a year Logicon Information Technology Group. 15 years with Northrop Grumman as Vice President of Business Operations for Logicon Advanced Technology, a $700 million a year operating unit of the Northrop Grumman IT sector. Northrop Grumman IT Sector Director of Contracts and Pricing, and Northrop Grumman Corporate Director of Cost Estimating, Pricing, and Program Controls. 10+ years experience on the board of the National Defense Industrial Association Program Management Committee, and 2 years on the board of the Bolsa Chica Land Trust in Huntington Beach, where I gained hands-on CEQA experience. As a consequence, I was appointed to the Huntington Beach Planning Commission, a 7-member board for a city of 200,000 people, but had to decline due to my move to Solvang. My vision for Solvang is to retain its unique cultural charm and its beautiful rural environment, which is so attractive to its residents and visitors, to continue to encourage the tourism critical to our city's operations, diversify our economic base, and revitalize our TRC without disrupting our residents' quality of life. To engage our citizens in the development of Solvang's vision and the goals and actions to achieve it via public workshops, one of which we did last year, and then update our general plan accordingly. And finally, to review the relevant city processes necessary to support the vision for improvement and streamlining opportunities. From a planning commissioner's perspective, achieving Solvang's vision means reviewing proposed projects to ensure they meet the vision and general plan, comply with city ordinances, and won't exceed the capacity of our infrastructure and scarce resources. I believe this is where I can best contribute to Solvang's vision and future success. Thank you.
Thank you. Joan Jameson.
Good evening. My name is Joni Jameson, and I'm applying for a seat on the Planning Commission. I'm a graduate of UCSB and attended graduate school in Northwestern. You have my application and qualifications. I've been a land use consultant for a long time, since 1986. I sat on the incorporation committee for the city of Solvang, helped write the general plan and the sign element, and the design element. We worked our way through the process for a new general plan. We later realized we needed a separate BAR to enforce the design element and the signage. I sat on the BAR, redoing the sign ordinance, and the Park and Rec Commission involved in the park study. And yes, I would agree, we need to review some of the ordinances, Knowing that the city will be beginning the process of updating the elements of the general plan, this is a perfect time to do that. I thoroughly understand the job of a planning commissioner. I sit on the other side of the dais. I bring applicants. I bring projects. Besides having my own business, I have worked in my husband's construction company since the early 80s, working with designers, architects, engineers, presenting and securing permits for grading construction, water well, septic systems, required landscaping, and presentations of approval to the Santa Barbara County BAR, Santa Barbara County Planning Commission, Santa Barbara Ag Commission, and some process in Solvang. And I understand some of the concern of how we handle our, am I done?
No, you can go ahead.
Oh, okay. Oh. I thoroughly understand the design and construction process and the necessary attention to building codes, new green requirements, fire codes, and environmental health, plus the general plan design elements, all aspects necessary for the approval of any project. I bring my expertise, fairness, a work with attitude, a good eye for design, reasonableness, good communication skills, and a desire to continue to make Solvang a unique place to live. My goal is to create good, excellent infill projects, excellent remodel or tear down projects, plus new developments downtown in the residential areas, being aware of the state-mandated ADUs and how they may change our community. Always looking for and demanding the best designs possible, ever keeping in mind the availability of our city resources needed to support such development, such as water, sewer, streets, sidewalks, parks, etc. My vision is to continue to help Solvang to be that special, happy, safe place to live, a place of charm, well-designed buildings and walking areas with excellent shops that provide unique experiences for our many tourists and locals, a unique Americanized Danish community located in the Central Coast among the historical areas of the Chumash tribe and the Spanish-Mexican mission heritage. Solvang is a place of caring people. Thank you.
Thank you, John. Michael Mendiza.
Good evening. I think my main qualification is innovation, frankly. I think that's what I can bring to you. As you know, you have my qualifications and my background on your sheets, so you know the technical kinds of things. But I think we're at a moment, a time when innovation and creativity is at a premium for us, to figure out ways to carry the heritage, carry the tradition and heritage and the spirit of this little village, into the next decade or next couple of decades. My feeling is that the answers that we seek won't be found looking in the rearview mirror, looking back. I think that the answers that we're going to be seeking really means to be looking forward, and that means to what the young people are about, what the millennials are about, what the new generation is about, with an eye that we are in a period of exponential change. The metaphor I use with my staff is that we're all running because we think it's time to get on the train, right? The train is going someplace. But the fact is the train has already left. It actually left it a couple weeks ago. So we're that far behind the curve in terms of how fast the world is changing around us. And very few people have the vision and capacity to understand what we're faced with in terms of the dynamic of cultural change. So for all kinds of reasons that I can go into, but I won't, I think I have a sense of that. And for the last 3 years, I've been looking very carefully at what I call the new retail reality. I'm a retailer. I deal with the business community and with my customers every day. And I have watched to see how we have improved within. We have done a better job every year, but it hasn't translated to the outside. So the inside job needs to be in sync with what's changing outside.
And like I said, I've interviewed hundreds of people, not hundreds, I've interviewed a lot of people on this theme, and I think I can bring that to you when, so vision, creativity, and innovation with an eye towards maintaining and enhancing the tradition of the village. Thanks.
Thank you, Michael. Greg Milliken.
Good evening, Mayor, City Council. Thanks for the good surprise opportunity to address you all this evening. Again, you have my qualifications that I reported last time I was here and then shared again tonight. I'll mention I have my undergrad degree from Occidental College in political science and a law degree from UCLA Law School. And as I think about sitting on the Planning Commission here, I'm excited to be able to take part in planning for a future that both has to be envisioned far off and yet take account of the environment we're in today and have the capacity to last. For example, as a young lawyer in Hawaii many years ago, one of the first projects I had in the big firm I was with was to respond to the request of AmFac, which was the developer of the Kaanapali Beach Resort, among others, to figure out how to ex post facto put a set of CC&Rs in place so that they could manage the development, manage the hotel sites that they were going to have, and so forth. And so they asked, can we figure out a way to do that and do it in a way that will facilitate whatever comes to pass in the resort in the years ahead. And so figured out a way to do that, did it, we put it in place, and the best of my ability that I'm aware of, it's still in place and functioning. None of us could have foreseen, 45 years ago, what exactly the changes were going to be. But I relished the opportunity to work with a kind of a complex situation, whether it's a legal environment, whether it's a regulatory environment, and try and blend that with the kind of planning that takes into account the human desires and needs and traditions so that we don't go off track, down the road. So to me, it's an exciting opportunity to be able to take the gifts and the skills and experience that I have. I think the future here is similar. I mean, part of what makes Hawaii tick, part of what makes Solvang tick, is that it is a welcoming but different cultural community. People are invited to step in. In Hawaii, it's the spirit of aloha. Maybe here in Solvang, it's a variety of ingredients, but it's a culture which has said to others, come join us in what we're doing here. And I think that's what the founders had in mind here as well. So to maintain that balance between having a healthy, vibrant community to be able to respond to the changes, and at the same time maintain that continuity with the past, I think is the planning challenge I look forward to taking part in it.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
Kenny Lama, New York. Okay. Aaron Peterson.
Good evening, folks. Application for Planning Commission. You have my resume, obviously, but I'll just highlight a few things. I was born and raised here, went to college and law school in Seattle, practiced up there as a prosecuting attorney for many years, came back, and now own some businesses. Since I've been back about 23 years, I've served on Allen Hancock Board of Trustees, the high school board, chairman of the YMCA, instrumental in building the Stewart YMCA, member of the Solvang School Bond Oversight Committee, been a member of the Economic Advisory Committee also, and then been on the BAR for about 4 years and Planning Commission for about 10. I've been through 3 different planning directors in my stay on the Planning Commission. And they didn't go quick. They were there for many years. I've raised my kids here. My ex-wife is from Denmark. I'm very familiar with Denmark. Been to Denmark many times over the last 30 years that we've been together. My kids have dual citizenship. Our kids have dual citizenship. I own a restaurant in town. We own a bakery, Chomp. We own Mortensen's Bakery. We opened a coffee shop. The Lansby is our property. It was the Peterson Inn. Been involved with tourism for my whole life, as my dad was an architect, and I was involved in building as we had grown up. I also processed a 4-way lot split in town since I've been back in a 7-lot subdivision in the county of Santa Barbara, down over by Nielsen's Market. So I've been on both sides. So I'm a landlord, I've been a tenant, I've been developing property, and I've sat on the Planning Commission for many, many years. So, you know, if you're looking for new ideas, new things, that's fine. But the Planning Commission is a technical body. The Planning Commission has to follow the laws and the rules, much of which is foisted on us by the state of California. It's mandated things that we have to do. More and more and more, Sacramento does that. And so we have some control, obviously, of what we can do, and a Planning Commission can look forward to try to develop the best way we can. But our hands are tied in many, many areas, not only by the state, but one of the biggest factors that's facing us is that our community. What goes on in the east end of the valley and the west end of the valley affects us, yet we don't seem to communicate well enough with the east and the west end of the valley. We are like, as an example, our traffic. With 154 closed, everyone has noticed all this. Well, 4-lane 246 and get the traffic through quicker, that's the kind of traffic we'll have 365, even when 154 is opened up. We need bike lanes. We need pedestrian-friendly areas. We need to look to the future and figure out how Solvang is going to face it in the next 5 to 10 years. I think that Solvang's a great place to live. Moved back here on purpose to raise my family. I've got some kids that might come back. They might not be back. Some of them are serving in the military, and they probably will never come back. Love this town. Been here. Want to keep serving. Want to be on it. I have a real technical background. I can follow the laws, which is mandated when we do our general plans, when we do our incorporation issues. Thank you.
William Rogers.
Mr. Mayor, I had applied for the BAR, and I saw on the application that perhaps the Planning Committee and the BAR were going to merge. I'm actually here for the BAR.
I'll move your application to the BAR.
Okay,
thank you. Justin Rodriguez.
Good evening, City Council. My name is Justin Rodriguez, as you just called me out. And I've been a resident of Solvang since 2015 when I bought a home in Skid Mesa. And my experience and qualifications, like everyone else, you have my things, but I studied geography at Long Beach State, where I got my bachelor's degree there. And among those things was urban planning. I studied climatology, planning, physical, and remote sensing, amongst other topics. I was also the president of the surf club. For the last 10 years, I've been a paving contractor. I have a C12 in earthwork grading, so I understand traffic conditions, and I also understand the building process. So I've had many years of experience with Americans with Disabilities Act installations and different types of infrastructure. ADA is a lot of what we do now. Those laws are constantly changing, and it's frustrating for a lot of builders and business owners. So I can understand that, but I do understand the building codes. I appreciate your consideration, and it'd be an honor to serve you guys in the city of Solvang. Appreciate your time.
Thank you. Jack Williams.
Mr. Mayor, City Council, Jack Williams. I'm applying for the Planning Commission. You have my resume and application, so I'll just give an overview of that rather than read it all back to you again. I have over 40 years' experience in engineering. I have a master's degree in engineering. I've worked for the federal government with NASA. I've worked for local government in Santa Barbara as the county facilities manager for 6 years. I own a business in town with my family. We own a residence in town. We've been in Solvang for almost 20 years and in the valley for over 30 years. So I'm very familiar with how things work and what the challenges are.
Excuse me.
You okay?
Thank you.
I tend to bring in an engineering, analytical point of view to everything I do. So I study the facts, seek input where necessary, and then try to come to a logical conclusion. So one of the things that's of primary importance on the Planning Commission is the general plan. And for a number of years now on the Planning Commission, we've talked about updating the general plan. There are several sections of it that are way out of date, and at least for this next year or next 2 years, I think that should be the prime focus of what the Planning Commission should be doing. And then, as others have said, the Planning Commission is governed by rules and rules and regulations. And my background fits into that very well. Thank you.
Thank you. Let's see. I think that was actually our last application for the Planning Commission. No one else here for it? Okay. So with that, we'll move on to appointments, right?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, members of the City Council, staff would recommend that pursuant to the municipal code that each member of the City Council make an appointment of one applicant to the Planning Commission and subject that appointment by ratification of the City Council.
Okay, so with that, would it be most efficient just to start at one end of the council and name your appointment?
I'd like to appoint Ryan Cuff.
Ryan Cuff, okay. Chris? Karen?
I will retain the original appointment of Jack Williams.
Karen. I will appoint Aaron Peterson.
I will appoint Justin Rodriguez.
And Daniel?
I'd like to appoint David Brentz.
Okay. So it'd be appropriate to get a motion just to accept all these people as delineated. Do I have a motion?
I will move that we accept the appointments of the 5 council members.
Planning Commission.
Planning Commission. By the council members.
All right, that being David Brentz, Ryan Cuff, Aaron Peterson, Justin Rodriguez, and Jack Williams. Do we have a second?
I'll second the motion.
Okay, it's moved and seconded. Roll call.
Are we going to discuss this?
Yeah.
We can discuss it.
Sure.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Because this is a very, as Mr. Peterson and Mr. Williams pointed out, and Ms. Jamison pointed out, this is a very technical commission, and I feel very, very strongly that we should have people that have experience, real experience on this commission. People with experience in finance, people with experience in development, engineering, etc. So with that, I would I would move to replace Ryan Cuff with Joan Jameson.
Okay. Is there a second? Dies for lack of second. Is there another motion on the floor?
I'd like to move that.
What?
Excuse me, Mr. Mayor, didn't somebody, Mr. Clark, moved, was that seconded?
Oh, yes, it was. Yeah, I'm sorry. The original motion is still on the floor.
yeah.
Yes. Okay.
Okay.
So with that, we can go back to roll call
Or discussion.
or any further
Or
discussion.
discussion,
Yeah, look, I really appreciate what Michael Mendiza has to offer, and I would love to see him as part of the five. Unfortunately, he's not. So I'll go in and approve, what you guys want to do, but I'd like to see him on there.
Okay.
I would agree with that. If we had 6 seats, that'd be great, yeah.
Well, your original appointment was Ryan Cuff, so you're replacing that with Mr. Mendiza?
No, I don't think so.
No.
Okay.
Mr. Mayor, we do have a motion and a second unless council has further discussion. You may want to call the roll, or unless council members have further discussion on the item.
Is there any further discussion?
No.
No.
I hate to do this because I don't want to disagree with my fellow councilman, but I really do have a question, a problem, and I'd like, and it has to do with Aaron Peterson. I love the guy. I wish him well in terms of the appointment process. But one of the problems that I have to voice at this point is he is a major property manager in the city. I know he's been on the planning commission for a long time. He's been part of the BR for a long time. He brings a lot to the table. But doesn't that also pose a potential conflict of interest with respect to the 500-foot rule? I would, if possible, I'd love to hear how he handled that.
Well, typically the way that happens is during the planning
themselves.
commission, they'd have to recuse themselves from projects that come up within areas of conflict of interest, such as the 500-foot rule. So with that, I'd presume that Aaron Peterson probably has to recuse himself from a decent amount of meetings. But there's certainly, and Robert, you can
Yeah, I
expand on
as
that.
well, and I served with Aaron for 6 years, and I think that he probably recused himself maybe 4 times in the 6 years. So, and that's not a fact, I'm just going by my recollection how often he did have to recuse himself, and Aaron did not have to recuse himself that often. So I'm just putting that out there.
So can I get a promise from Aaron that he'll recuse himself when the
Well,
time comes?
So,
Thank you.
He knows that.
Mr. Mayor, if I may, Mr. Peterson did indicate in his application that there had been just a couple of instances, I think 3, in the entire 6 years that he was on the planning commission. That's not uncommon for someone to have to recuse themselves, and over a 6-year period of time, that's not a lot.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, it doesn't interfere with his ability to serve. All right, so with that, unless there's any further discussion or motions on the table, I'd like to move forward with.
I have some further discussion.
Yes, okay.
First, I want to remind my fellow council members of decorum and language that is used on the dais. Next, I would just like to let Mr. Ryan Cuff know that it was in no way a personal decision. It strictly has to do with experience in land use because this is a technical commission. So that was why I would want to substitute Mr. Cuff for Joan Jameson. That's my reason, and I like to explain why I make decisions.
Yeah, thank you. We're back to the original motion.
Councilmember Clark.
I approve.
Johnson.
Yes.
Dearness.
Yes.
Wait.
If we're going with the original motion,
Yes.
Correct.
then I'll have to say no.
Mayor Toussaint.
Yes.
Motion passes 4-1.
Mr. Mayor, moving on to the next item, the Board of Architecture review. before anyone of the 5 members that were just appointed to the Planning Commission leave, if I could kindly ask that they stay until the end of the meeting, because I would like to touch bases with them regarding a training opportunity that's coming up next week.
Okay.
Moving on to the Board of Architectural Review, as I mentioned, we have now 11 applicants for that. Mr. Mayor, recommendation would be for them to give a 3-minute presentation, followed that by a ranked voting ballot exercise.
I have a suggestion. We could take just a 2-minute break, and then the planning commission can meet, and then they could leave if they want to leave, and then we could come back and do all of this again.
10 minutes for that?
Is that
How
okay?
long do you need?
5 minutes should be fine.
5-minute bathroom break.
That'd be great.
Sounds good.
All right, I'd like to call to order the special meeting of Thursday, February 28th. We're going to move on to the Board of Architectural Review presentations. First person I have for the BAR is Robert Aries, but I believe he was absent earlier. Okay. Next person I have is Caroline Bolding.
That's me. I'm going to try and get through this without coughing. I have the cough that's going around the valley.
I'm doing the same thing.
So I'm going to try my best. Good evening, Mayor. Good evening, council members. What I bring to the table is aesthetics that I learned starting when I was 5 as an original Tinkerbell for Walt Disney, growing up in the company of Walt Disney and working in Walt Disney Imagineering, learning the aesthetics that are valuable to the world, the public, from someone in China to someone in America to someone in Sweden and France. The interesting thing that I love about Solvang is that it's like Main Street Disneyland. It's pure, it's historic, it has a value that I treasure. So when I retired out of LA, I wanted to be here because it was a lot like living at Disneyland in a lot of ways. I'd like to see things preserved. I'd like to see the good taste of this town and the good design and the harmonious surroundings of the developments stay the way they are. I'm not keen on change. I know there was a gentleman here that was talking about change and that kind of thing, but I think the more the world changes, the more valuable Solvang is for its authenticity, for its charm, for its history. What I learned at Disney in architecture, I was under Wing Chow, who was the head of master planning, architecture, and design for all the projects in the world, was the value of authenticity, of the story that I think Solvang is. I think the charm that is Solvang, the history that is Solvang, like with Aaron's family, is something that I see in the faces of the tourists when the little kids are being put in the little the little shoe on the street there for photos. There's something so full of wonderment in this town that I would like to see if there are new businesses and if there are growth in this town, and if there is, I'd like it still to retain that wonderment and mystique that I think people come to Solvang to experience. I also worked with the Pritzker family, who gives out the Pritzker Prize in Architecture every year, which is a lot like Pulitzer Prize, right? So I learned from them also, again, of the value of the visual, of the authentic, and yet still keep things with a pulse toward new and fresh. I think you can do that. I think signage, things that are commercial have to still stay true to what Solvang is. And to me, and I wrote this out, and you probably have this, but Solvang's appeal, its intrinsic value to all who live and visit here, is its treasured, historic, yet fanciful charm and mystique. Like Disney, as a Walt Disney Imagineer, an artist, and a sculptor, I understand that mystique. I would like to see that treasure maintained, and yet still welcome new businesses that not only recognize and respect the value of that treasure, but want to be part of Solvang for this wonderful presence that it is in a world that is constantly changing. I like to see it stay a lot of what it is. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, the next person we'll move on to will be Patrick Kavanaugh.
Good evening, Mayor, members of the City Council. I appreciate the opportunity to address you regarding my reappointment to the Board of Architectural Review. You have, again, the background, but I think that I have significant educational background and experience in the development and implementation of architectural design standards in large communities that are important. I have an undergraduate degree from Grinnell College, an MBA at Drake University, Iowa Law School degree from the University of Iowa, as well as I've completed the senior program for state and local government managers from the Kennedy School at Harvard. I have, as the Vice President and Chief Business Officer of 2 major universities, spanning nearly 25 years, it was my responsibility to oversee the development of campus design standards and campus master plans for those communities to create a greater sense of place and pride in those communities. And of course, then I was very much involved in the financing and design and construction of new facilities to ensure they were harmonious with those plans. I have experience in a variety of public agencies charged with balancing the interests of individuals and the interest of the larger community. I think we have to ensure fairness. Ensuring fairness often comes down to applying the golden rule. Any of us that are serving in government should work hard to ensure that our decisions are, both in fact and in appearance, unbiased and timely, just as we expect if we were the petitioners. To have the confidence in the processes and outcomes, all parties should feel they've had an adequate opportunity to present their case and that their case was considered when decisions were made. Working in collaboration with staff and the Planning Commission and with the oversight of the council, I think we can do better in this area. Solvang is a special place with a great future. In its introduction, Solvang's design standards notes the city's unique character and history, but it says there is, I love the phrase, a common understanding that preserving and perpetuating the Danish Northern European architectural charm of the area will enhance the social and economic base of the community. Some people in the room now were involved in drafting that, which I thought was terrific. As you know, the pursuit of that common understanding has worked very well. The city's recent budget report noted that nearly 50% of the city's general fund revenues come from the transient occupancy tax, all paid by non-voters, to make the quality and the value of our community so great. The commitment to that common understanding of the impact of these design standards over the past several decades has resulted in a very special community which has been nationally and internationally recognized. I hope this commitment to the common understanding articulated in the design standards years ago will continue to contribute to this remarkable community. Thank you.
Thank you, Patrick. Mark Infanti.
Good evening, Mayor, council members. I've been a member of the bar for the past 4 years and would like to be reappointed to it. My qualifications went into the letter that went into it. It lists my business management degree, conveys my experience as an architectural student, a draftsman for an architectural firm, a project controls manager for Parsons Engineering Construction Company, University of California certified naturalist, understanding landscapes, and a volunteer at the Oliver Hoy in Sedgwick, and a couple of things of that nature. As a member of the bar for the last 4 years, I've noticed that the bar tries to uphold the principles of the Solvang Design Guide and Sign Ordinance. Planning Commission gets into very technical issues. The bar gets into aesthetics. It's those aesthetics that you've heard several people talk about that are so charming to our tourists. And although I have a complete faith in the city planning staff, any applicant that goes before the planning staff is only going to talk to one person. But when they come to the bar, they have 5 people with all of their experiences as business owners and citizens of the city to give them feedback and direction that allows them to come up with a design that fits within the city and yet supports their business. The city is unique in its character, and I think that's how it should remain. In my letter of interest, I related an incident where I met a Danish family here on vacation who told me they thought the city was comfortable or comforting. There's a Danish word, hygge, if that's how it's pronounced. My wife, on the other hand, met a family at the Oliver Hoy Museum from Northern California who said Carmel was just a short drive for them, but they would rather drive all the way down here to Solvang because it is so much more comfortable for them and the people are so friendly. That's my vision for the city, is this Danish Northern European community that is comfortable and has a bunch of friendly people that appeals to the tourists. That's where, as you've heard, that our money comes from. I don't always agree with Councilmember DeJernis, but I like to comment about Michael Mendiza. I think some of his ideas are where this would go. And I've talked to him several times about him, actually, since he first expressed them. He's got some neat ideas, and I think that's great. One of the things about the BAR is it has the opportunity to have some flexibility as long as we keep the charm of this city. Unlike the Planning Commission, as Aaron had pointed out, it's very technical, and you've got some decisions to make, and you've got this kind of, environmentals and CEQAs and so on and so forth. Great. It's not what we do. We maintain the charm, and that's what I'd like to be a part of. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mark. Joan Jameson, but you've already spoken during the PC. Do you want to speak again during? Okay.
Well, you have my qualifications. I helped write the sign ordinance, the original one, and then a review of it, which had many, many different phases to it. And I was part of the design element in the general plan. I want to share with you a meeting that I went to at the Cork the other evening that was part of our economic development. And Mike Mendiza was the key speaker. I agree that he is a visionary and really smart man. And he has told us that in order for us to survive in the retail business here in Solvang, we need to provide an experience when those people come into our stores. We need to reach all of their senses, their hearing, their sight, their smell, their feel. He tried to educate us as to how to do that. And I was in this room with probably maybe about 30 Danish high school students. And they were hilarious. They told us that, number one, our town does not look like Denmark. True, we don't. We are Northern European. We're more Bavarian than anything else. And they said, we think you should get more modern. So they want us to have cube-looking buildings that are black and white, lots of glass. And they said, and you have to have bicycles. You have to have bicycles. Copenhagen is filled with bicycles. Everybody rides their bicycle. And we all know how we've tried to do that, and we kind of get shut down on it. They also thought it would be a good idea to have close off Copenhagen so people could have a good time out there. If they want to, they could dance, they can eat, they can drink. I just found them very enlightening, very charming. And whatever that word is that Mark Infante just used, that's the word that they used. They felt Solvang was very much like their grandmother's kitchen, and the cookies were cooking in the oven, and the relaxation and the love and the laughter that they experienced in that kitchen is what they kind of felt that we have here. So that was one good thing, but they still let us know we do not look like Copenhagen. Thank you.
Thank you. Elsa Marie Lund.
Good evening. My name is Elsa Marie Lund Peterson, and I have lived in Solvang for a little more than 30 years. I was born and raised in Denmark, came here in my early 20s. I have owned businesses for 23 years out of the 30 years living here. I'm currently the manager at the Copenhagen House here in Solvang. I have been a BAR member for at least 5 years. I'm trying to remember, it might even have been 6 or 7. I would like to apply to be reappointed for the BAR. I think I would be good for the BAR. I am good for the BAR because of me growing up in Denmark and knowing Danish design and what Danish buildings and architecture should look like. When Joni mentions that Solvang does not look like Copenhagen or exactly like Denmark, it doesn't, but it does give you the feel of Denmark. for sure. I do, one of the big reasons that what's important to me about being on the BAR is when people come in and apply and want to paint their buildings, a lot of times people want to go safe and they want to paint their buildings tan and brown, and that's not Danish. So something that I would like to see is that we maybe add to our BAR guidelines a color, some color choices. And there are historical colors that you can find from Denmark, like the Skagen yellow, that could be added and make with colors, certain colors would make the town look more Danish and more current. I think Solvang's architecture is charming. My vision for Solvang, I really feel that we need to focus on that we are a Danish town. I don't really like just hearing the term Northern European. We're Danish and we need to focus on that. If you picture Nyhavn, I'm sure you're all familiar with Nyhavn in Denmark, how you have all the bright colors. I think that we could incorporate more of that into Solvang. Trying to think if there was anything else that I would like to mention. So really, for me, my strength on the BAR would be my love for design, and I think I have a great eye. It's, for me, easy, I think, to see if things look good or not so good. So I hope that you will consider and reappoint me for the BAR. Thank you.
Thank you. William Rogers.
Hello, Mr. Mayor and council members. Thanks for having me. I was a late applicant, and I did not know that there was the letter of interest to be included. So I actually brought my letter of interest, and I'll read off of that a bit. As far as the Danish kids saying that Solvang lacked the cube buildings of black and white, that was my understanding, because Solvang was settled and was designed originally before the Bauhaus movement of Northern European design, which really brought in those modern post-industrial designs. Solvang doesn't have that, which is fine with me. So anyway, my name is William Rogers. I've been a co-owner of the Solvang Brewing Company for approximately 4 years and worked with that company for 2 years prior to becoming a partner. Concurrently, I'm a professor of fine art and art history at the Los Angeles Academy of Figurative Art. I've been a professional artist since the age of 19, and I've been teaching on the college level for 30 years. I hold a master's and undergrad degrees from the New York Academy of Art and the University of Maryland, respectively. I have studied and instructed internationally with a focus on European art and architecture. The experiences I share come from my knowledge of operating a local business, which has made a major construction expansion in the city of Lompoc, and my communication skills as a teaching professional in the fields of art, design, aesthetics, and history. In my experience here in Solvang, it is essential to have a city government which can maintain the integrity of what Solvang stands for while steadfastly supporting its greatest industry of tourism. As an appointee of the Board of Architectural Review, I can address the concerns of the history and aesthetic of Solvang as well as its business interests. I do admit I have certain personal vested interest in the business end, but also a deep personal interest in aesthetics, history, art, and such. Many of you know my business partner, Carrie Jackson Renfro. She is a 5th generation Solvang native. Her children are 6th generation now, and she's very dear to me, and I would always uphold, her standards and Solvang resident standards in any way. I do have a great care for the culture, art, and history, and my vision of Solvang is to be able to have a strong, healthy, growing business environment which is very conscientious of Solvang and all that it offers. So I would be pleased to be on the board and would offer my services, knowledge, experiences, and input on what I get working in Solvang day to day in the business world.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Tim Thompson. Not here. Jonathan Villegas.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Board. My name is Jonathan Villegas. I've been a licensed civil engineer since the early 2000s. I've been working mainly in Santa Barbara area, so both North County and South County. I've been doing architectural design and also structural engineering. In 2008, when we had the recession, I was working for a large firm. It went kind of belly up from 45 people to 5 people in an instant because we had a bunch of our businesses all around the world. So I decided to hang my hat. And I hung my hat, my own shingle out there in 2000, and I've been self-employed since then. And I have my own company. My wife and I, we've been traveling up and down this area for years and years. We said, when the kids move out, we're going to move to Solvang. So we did that, and we did that about 1.5 years ago. And we lived up here for a year, and we rented over on Village Collection. Loved it, walked into town, ate great meals, drank great wine. But one thing that we always saw that was just so critical to Solvang is how friendly everybody was. I mean, you know, everybody makes, lip service to a community and how friendly the community is. And we said, oh, yeah, it probably is that way. But when we moved here, we actually really realized how friendly everybody is and how helpful everybody was to us when we moved up here. And then when we bought our own house over across from Nelson's, we had a gathering with all our neighbors. And all our neighbors invited us over for cookies and ice cream. And this is something that I just like heard of, like in, old movies and television shows. I could not believe this. So my wife and I keep pinching ourselves every time we go out because we think that we're on vacation every day that we are up here, and we love it so much. I know I don't have a lot of experience with Danish architecture, but I've been on the other side. I've worked with Mission Styles, Contemporary, Cape Cod, Hamptons, California Ranch, but I really want to learn more about the Danish architecture, and I thought this would be a great opportunity for me to learn more about it and also to be an active member of this community and to give my input and my experience. That's it. Thank you.
Susan Williams.
Good evening, Mayor Toussaint and City Council members. I'm Susan Williams. It has been an honor and a pleasure to serve on the BAR for the past 16 months, and I would hope to be appointed again. I've lived half my life on the East Coast in the Baltimore, Washington area, and half my life here in California, the last 20 years in Solvang. I know that Solvang is a very special place to live, and I would like to help keep it that way. As a small business owner in the TRC for almost 13 years, a career as a financial professional working with designers, architects, and builders, and my thorough knowledge of the sign ordinance, I bring a unique perspective to the Board of Architectural Review. My vision for Solvang is that it be a vibrant, welcoming community, embracing the Danish history, culture, and unique ambiance, while being progressive in ways to improve the economic health, technology, and services for residents and businesses alike. Outside of the TRC, I would like to keep the small town feel that makes living here so wonderful. I became an active advocate for Solvang businesses shortly after my family opened our business in 2007. Times were tough, and businesses throughout the TRC were struggling. I joined the Solvang Chamber Board, was appointed to the Solvang Beautification Committee, and spearheaded the formation of Solvang Third Wednesday. I worked with other business owners to bring improvements to the city, such as the year-round fairy lights that are in the trees throughout Solvang, and directional signage to point visitors to Solvang's off-Copenhagen businesses. My understanding of the sign ordinance comes from serving on the last sign ordinance review committee. I know the challenges Solvang businesses face. I know it's important that decisions by the BAR be made timely as well as fairly and equitably for everyone. There are unique circumstances that may warrant variances, but the BAR needs to take into consideration not only the desires of the business owner, but the effects on the immediate neighbors, the surrounding area, and Solvang's unique small-town Northern European ambiance. Before every meeting, I visit the location of the applicants, and I look at the surrounding areas to make sure that I'm well informed at the BAR meetings. Keeping a collaborative atmosphere at the BAR meeting is important too. I still remember how intimidated I was when I first came to the BAR. A trip to Denmark in 2011, seeing not only Copenhagen Aalborg, but smaller towns such as Rebuild and Ribe, gave me a good understanding of old world Danish architecture and how we can improve. I recently visited Leavenworth, Washington, which is a Bavarian town similar to Solvang. I wanted to see how Solvang stacked up against this tourist town. After the trip, I reviewed their sign ordinance and design guidelines, something that I do frequently when I visit a town that has a historic town. So anyway, I will appreciate the opportunity to continue my service to the community if you choose to appoint me again. Thank you.
Thank you. Scott Gold.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, council members. My name is Scott Gold, and I would like to introduce myself as a candidate for the Board of Architecture Review. I am the director and senior manager of the beautiful Hotel Cork and Route 246. Our family relocated from Los Angeles and purchased a home in beautiful Solvang in 2017, and now we're busy raising our two twins. I graduated from William F. Harrah College of Hotel Administration in Las Vegas, in UNLV. I have 23 years of successful work experience in the hospitality field, and I'm well-versed on project management, planning, execution, finance, design, and teamwork. My professional experience includes several leadership positions. I have been involved in remodeling, design, rebranding hotels, luxury condominiums, and mixed-use buildings. I have assisted with the remodel of the 5,000 guest room MGM Grand, as well as the creation of the new build, their West Wing. I served on the opening team of the W Hotel in Hollywood and their adjoining 143 luxury condo building and their mixed-use retail spaces. We also earned the Green Award for that building. We follow code, we create fun design, and create places while pushing aesthetics. My current company represents the biggest tax contribution revenue in Solvang, with Hotel Cork, Route 246, and the Hadson House. In addition, our enterprise is due to make the largest capital investment in Solvang, probably within the last 10 years. We're going to have a great remodel for the 3 properties. This will drive more hotel guests, additional covers in our restaurant, and as a result, additional tax dollars will be generated, not just for our company, but for the city as a whole. I'm lucky enough to speak to hundreds of guests every week and understand what they're looking for, what Solvang has to offer, and what they would like to see in the future. I am an executive who realizes that there's much more to the world than just my work and home life. I have a responsibility to my city as well, the wonderful city of Solvang. That said, I fully understand that the Board of Architecture Review needs to focus on the big picture and also those small details. This wonderful city has so much additional potential, and I would be honored to do my part to serve both my neighbors and my co-business owners alike. Thank you very much for the opportunity.
Thank you. I'd just like to say I spoke with Michael Mendiza, and he was also interested in the BAR, and we've had 2 people that were absent so far, so with consensus from the council, I would like to give Michael also an opportunity for the BAR. Yeah? Okay. So with that, Michael, would you like to come up?
Me again. Having just spent a number of times visiting with the BAR on this side, trying to get various initiatives through the process, particularly within the signage area, not necessarily with some of the building or structural kinds of things, but certainly within the signage area. It became clear to me that the existing ordinances, even though they've been reviewed, still need some work. You know, there are when you take a look at the way that young people are communicating, when you look at contemporary design in terms of merchandising, display, how things are presented graphic. We're in a world. The world is quite different in how sophisticated advertising and merchandising and so on is being handled, and in many ways, the current signage, specifically, pretty out of sync with what the current models are. So I've been a photographer since I was 15. I'm a documentary filmmaker, so I've been living with aesthetics. I've been, we curate international design and jewelry and work with artists all the time. So I'm dealing with composition and art and design and balance and those kinds of things every day. And again, as I said earlier, I think innovation is an area that I'm pretty good at. And I look at it as a catalyst almost. I think I can be a catalyst to take tradition and take what I think is the current or the future of graphic design and presentation and how people are communicating. And I think I'm quite well suited to serve as a catalyst to merge those two, again, past and present and future. So those are my strengths. I think I actually have quite a bit to offer to the BAR in those ways.
Thank you, Michael. All right, so with that, we'll move on to the next part, which would be our ranking. I believe each council member will receive a sheet with 5 ranking slots, and then we'll fill that out and hand that over to staff, and then we'll present the results on the board.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, you are correct. That is the process that we will be using. The city clerk right now is adjusting the ballots. She's striking the 2 names of the 2 individuals that did not show up tonight. She's adding the 2 names of Mr. Gold and Mr. Mendiza to your ballot. We would ask that each council member rank their ballot, rank their top 5 individuals. The ranking would be in the order of 1 being their first choice, 2 being their second choice, 3 being their third choice, etc. Each one of those rankings will be given points. So, example, the council member's top choice will receive 5 points, their second choice will receive 4 points, etc. And then at the conclusion, we would be adding them up on the overhead when you're done. And then the recommendation would be the 5 candidates that receive the 5 highest points would then be on the slate for your consideration for the BAR.
Thank you. So with that, we'll just take a moment here to fill out our ranking sheets and turn them as we complete them. All right, so I believe that we've received all the results, and staff will be presenting them live on the screen here.
The following are the point totals from Councilmember Clark.
You'll have to go a little slow also for me. So.
William Rogers, 5 points. Elsa Marie Peterson, 4 points. Michael Mendiza, 3 points. Caroline Bolding, 2 points. Scott Gold, 1 point. The ballot of Councilmember Dearness. Scott Gold, 5 points. William Rogers, 4 points. Michael Mendiza, 3 points. Elsa Marie Peterson, 2 points. And Jonathan Villegas, 1 point. The ballot of Councilmember Johnson. Michael Mendiza, 5 points. Scott Gold, 4 points. William Rogers, 3 points. Susan Williams, 2 points. Jonathan Villegas, 1 point. The ballot of Councilmember Waite. Mark Infante, 5 points. Joan Jameson, 4 points. Elsa Marie Peterson, 3 points. Susan Williams, 2 points. Scott Gold, 1 point. The ballot of Mayor Toussaint. Michael Mendiza, 5 points. Scott Gold, 4 points. Joan Jameson, 3 points. William Rogers, 2 points. Jonathan Villegas, 1 point.
Mr. Mayor, members of the City Council, I believe the slate for those that received the most points would be in alphabetical order: Scott Gold, Joan Jameson, Michael Mendiza, Elsa Marie Peterson, and William Rogers.
Okay, so with that, we can have any discussion on this, or we can entertain a motion.
I'm always open for discussion. So I really would like to have seen a little more experience on there. I really would have loved to have seen Mark reappointed. I would like to have seen Susan Williams reappointed. So as you can tell by looking at my numbers, many of the people that I felt were experienced and appropriate, did not make it on to the final count. So I just wanted to put out again my value and experience mixed with new ideas is very important to me.
Okay, is there any more discussion? Is there a motion?
I move that we go ahead and accept the appointees as ranked there.
Okay. Do we have a second?
I'll second the motion.
That will go to a roll call.
Councilmember Dearness?
Yes.
Johnson?
Yes.
Clark?
Yes.
Waite?
No.
Mayor Toussaint?
Yes. With that, we are adjourned.